Tonight's story is titled Revenge by Chester Mealer. Middletown, a quiet small town nestled in the red Georgia clay. Susan and her parents had settled into bed.
20 years ago, I sat in the kitchen having a warm cup of milk when I realized it was October 31st. The date wasn't crucial, not for what I had in mind, just a coincidence. My wife Susan and her parents, David and Jenny Austin, had retired for the night. I heard the sound of creaking steps on the staircase as soon as they went up to bed. Soon I would put my plan into action. Susan had to be first. It had to be quick with little noise. I looked down at her as she slept. The iron rod in my hand crashed down on Susan's sleeping body. Her skull caved in at the point of impact. The blood flowed down her face. It was done. My heart was pounding as I walked slowly down the hall. The night before, I had checked into an out-of-town motel 100 miles away, telling the clerk my stay would be for 2 days. I gave him my reason. It was to look at commercial land for sale. My story went unchecked during the investigation. I stayed around until after the police and coroner completed their inquiry. It was murder committed by an unknown attacker during a break-in. The following week, a quiet funeral for my wife and her parents was held at the Presbyterian Cemetery. I didn't want to stay in the house after the murders of Susan and her parents, but I wanted to keep the house. I decided to keep Mrs. Wilson, their housekeeper. She had been with the family since Susan was a young child. I moved away. I went up north to start a new life, far from the eyes that looked accusingly at me each time I came to town. I settled in New York, in a little town up in the northeastern part of the state, as a financial advisor. The work was easy. I benefited from my clients' lack of knowledge in the financial market. It wasn't until recently when I received a letter from an attorney for the children of the old lady I was bilking out of her savings. The $5,000 fee submitted to her bank caused a red flag, and her children started investigating. It was time to close the doors and leave. It was October and the weather had turned cold, along with my chance of staying a free man. So I returned to my wife's house in Georgia. Over the years, I had paid for the maintenance on the place, thinking it would be a nice investment if money became tight. Now it would serve as my house to lay low and out of sight. After the long drive back, I finally came to the turnoff, an overgrown private road that led to the house. Before getting out, I sat a while in the car, looking and remembering the night they died. Suddenly, I felt cold. My body stiffened. My eyes became fixed upon the house. The shutters for the bedroom Susan and I shared slowly opened, and I could see a faint light inside. It must be that old Mrs. Wilson forgot and left a small light on, and the latch unlocked. I got out, but left the car lights on to see my way to the front door. After the luggage was brought in, I clicked on the lamp and returned to the car. As I approached, the car lights began to fade, then went out. Must have been the battery, I thought. I should have checked the car before I left town, but I was in a hurry to leave. I pulled on the door handle, but it was locked. And after searching my pockets for the keys and being unable to find them, I peered into the car. On the passenger side, I saw them laying on the floor. I must have dropped them without knowing it. I walked around to the other side. It had been a long drive without stopping for sleep, and it caused my forgetfulness. I opened the passenger door and picked up the keys, thinking I was just tired, that was all. The dead battery could wait for morning. I carried the luggage upstairs to the bedroom, dropped them on the floor, and looked around. Everything was clean and neat, nothing out of place. Our old bed was made and covered with fluffy pillows, the kind Susan liked. I took my bedclothes out and went into the bathroom for a hot shower to relax. The water was soothing and my body began to unwind. I wasn't planning on staying here in the house that long, only until the problem up north went away. Then I would move to another state, another town, and start all over again.
It was late at night and Mrs. Wilson had gone to bed, but Carrie wasn't sleeping and was swinging slowly, unannounced, unnoticed, on the porch. She watched as the man stepped out of his car, gather his luggage, and enter the house. Her grandmother had been the housekeeper for the Austins since Susan was a child and stayed on at the request of Susan's husband. Carrie came to live with her grandmother at the age of 13 after the death of her parents in a fire. It was exactly 2 years ago today. She remembers the night, the flames, how her heart pounded inside her chest, the screams by her parents as they called for her. In the dark, she watched him with his curiosity as he fumbled with his pockets, his look of exasperation at the car. The light was on in the bedroom window she knew was her room where Susan had died. Her grandmother had told her the story many times about the suspicious break-in and the husband suddenly leaving town. Carrie wondered if the strange man was the husband returning to live in this house once again. She thought how nice it would be to...
I waited until the light came on in the upper bathroom window, then creeping quietly through the unlocked front door and up the stairs, being careful that I avoided the creaking step. I made my way to the bedroom door. Bending down, I could look through the keyhole. I could see the stranger inside as he looked around the room.
Carrie watched as the man opened the bathroom door. On feet soft as a cat, she went to the bed and pulled the covers down. Then she returned to look through the keyhole once more.
I could see his face and the expression of bewilderment at finding the covers had been pulled down and ready for him. An old amusement filled me, one I had not felt since the fire. It was exciting to be in control.
I walked out of the bathroom ready for sleep when my eyes caught a change in the bed. The blankets had been pulled down. I didn't remember pulling them down, but I must have and forgotten. In bed, I pulled the covers up high, and the only sound was the gentle breeze that often blew during this time of year. Sleep came, and I started to dream, or perhaps it wasn't really a dream at all, or sleep. I started seeing them in my mind, looking at me with disbelieving faces and asking, wanted to know why. I tried to stop the dream or whatever it was, but it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't go away. Over and over, I said it just had to be that way. Stop asking me why. It was the only way. I needed the money. My heart was pounding, my breathing fast and shallow. I needed to get out of bed. That was the problem. The bed and old memories with Susan smiling at me. I didn't turn the light on, or did I? Am I starting to imagine things? No, I'm tired. That's the reason for all this. I'm tired, that's all. I decided to get out of bed and walk around the house, thinking that would help. I needed to familiarize myself again with the house. I found my old house coat and put it on, clean, hanging on a hook inside the bathroom.
Carrie watched at the keyhole. She could see him toss and turn, trying to sleep. She heard him speak out loud. "Stop asking me why. It was the only way. I needed money." He told himself, "I'll get up and walk around the house. That will help." Carrie quickly walked to the closet at the end of the hall. There she closed the door, but leaving enough open to watch the stranger walk towards the staircase.
I went downstairs to the living room. Still the same furniture, always clean, neat, everything in its place. Even the floral pictures she liked to hang on the walls next to the large picture of Susan and her parents smiling and looking serene. What? It can't be. I know it can't be. I took that picture down after I killed him.
I could hear him talking to his ghost. And as for that picture, my grandmother loved it, and after finding it in the cellar, she hung it back in its place.
Someone was having a joke on me, I told myself. Whoever it was, I would pay them back. That was a promise. After walking through the lower rooms, I decided to return to bed. It was late, and I needed rest. My body was tired. I would deal with the keys, the locked car, and the other strange things in the morning. The trip had been long and it drained my strength. A few years back, I had a heart attack that put me in the hospital. I remember the doctor saying, "Don't let yourself get excited, and you'll have many good years ahead to enjoy life." Sure, it's not your dream, is it, Doc? I returned and stood inside the bedroom door, staring at the bed. The blankets and pillows were readjusted, as if I'd never been there. My street clothes laid neatly on the bed. My luggage had been placed on the chair as if I were leaving. Confused, I stood next to the bed. I could hear a voice. It was coming from downstairs, a soft voice. It was Susan's, but that couldn't be.
Hunter, why? Why, Hunter?
She was calling to him, asking.
I thought you loved me. Hunter, we need you. We can't go on without you.
I heard more voices asking, why? My chest was pounding. It was about to explode. My body felt too tired to move, my feet too heavy to lift. The voices, I could hear them talking. The voices were coming up the stairs. The room began to fade. The immense pain in my chest swallowed me, ripping me apart. I was scared for the first time in my life. I was scared. No help would come. It was over and I knew it. At the very end, I saw my body on the floor, motionless. My eyes were open, looking at me, or whatever I had become. Had my guilt killed me, or was it revenge by the house? How much time had passed between death and now seemed unimportant. The few people who came to my grave stood silently. Some I could hear them talking, but they never looked at me. Old Mrs. Wilson, hired to keep the house, she was telling someone.
We all thought he had killed his wife and her parents over money, but never could prove it. We all thought he did. He was always looking for a way to make easy money. I guess murdering them was the quick and easy way.
Came the reply from the old man standing nearby. That was the talk among the living, those curious few standing at his grave.
Yeah, he was never any good. In trouble all of his life. His wife and her parents was good people. Yes, sir, they were good people.
After everyone had gone, only Mrs. Wilson's granddaughter Carrie remained, watching from across the street. I turned to leave, but not alone. 3 shadows waited for me. In step, we walked away from the open ground unseen, except for Carrie, who smiled at me as I passed.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight for our little audio play, Revenge. Dan Thibodeau played Hunter. Linda Mueller played Susan. Cassie Gaspard played the housekeeper. Greg Hall played the other person at the cemetery. Matt Gaspard was the narrator for us. Haley Reyes played Carrie.